The conversation stops. Nobody says anything. For seconds pass. Feels like 4 hours. Strange, isn't it? Silence is nothing. No sound waves. No information. Just empty air sitting between two people. And yet somehow it can feel louder than shouting. Here's the real answer. That silence isn't empty at all. Your brain is filling it with something ancient, and it's doing it whether you want it to or not. Researchers have studied this exact moment, the pause in a group conversation. They found something specific. Silences longer than about 4 seconds don't just feel awkward. They actually shift how people see their place in the group. A short pause reads as normal, even comfortable. But once it crosses that 4-second mark, people start silently asking a different question. Am I still included here? Did I say something wrong? Is everyone else feeling this too? Or is it just me? For seconds, that's all it takes for your brain to start doubting your place in the room. Now here's where it gets stranger. Why would something as harmless as silence trigger a question about belonging? Go back to a well-known experiment on exactly this kind of exclusion. Researchers built a simple digital ball-tossing game called Cyberball. 3 players, 1 ball, nothing at stake. Except the other 2 players were programmed to slowly stop throwing the ball to the real participant. No insults. No cruelty. Just quiet exclusion, 1 missed pass at a time. Participants reported genuine distress. Not mild annoyance. Real emotional pain. Over a pointless game with imaginary strangers they'd never even see. Playing for a prize that didn't even exist. Other researchers took this further. They put people in a brain scanner while they played that same excluding game and watched what lit up when players got frozen out. The dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, a region long associated with the distress of physical pain, activated in almost the same pattern as it does when you stub your toe or burn your hand on a stove. Read that again. Silent social exclusion and physical pain share overlapping wiring in your brain. Being left out doesn't just feel like it hurts. Your brain responds to social exclusion using some of the same distress systems involved in physical pain. So why would evolution build a brain that treats being ignored the same way it treats an injury? Because for most of your ancestors, exclusion from the group wasn't an inconvenience. It was a death sentence. A human alone, outside the tribe, had no one to share food with during a bad season. No eyes watching for predators while they slept. No help if they got sick or hurt out on the move. Belonging wasn't a nice feeling to have. It was survival infrastructure as essential as food or water. So your brain evolved to treat any signal of possible exclusion, even a few extra seconds of silence, as urgent enough to genuinely hurt. Which brings us back to that conversation you're standing in right now, the one where nobody said anything in 4 seconds. Your ancient wiring doesn't know the difference between actual banishment from a tribe and a friend simply pausing to think of what to say next. It just detects the gap and asks the same old question it always has. Am I still safe here? Do I still belong? Should I be worried? That's why silence in a conversation with people you barely know feels unbearable, while the exact same silence with someone you've known for 20 years barely registers at all. It's not really about the silence itself. It's about how certain you already feel of your place with that person. The less certain you are, the louder the silence gets, and the more urgently your brain scrambles to resolve it. Here's something you've probably felt without ever naming it. You're in a group setting, a work meeting, a first date, a table of new acquaintances you just met an hour ago. The conversation lulls, and instead of just letting it sit there naturally, you find yourself scrambling to fill it. Any topic, any joke, any half-formed sentence, anything at all to make the silence stop before it stretches a second longer than it already has. That scramble isn't nervousness for no reason. It's your ancient threat detection system doing precisely the job it evolved to do, treating a conversational gap as a possible signal that you're losing your footing in the group right now in real time. This isn't limited to face-to-face silence either. Think about the last time you sent a text and watched it sit there, marked read, with no reply for an hour. That gap isn't silence in the traditional sense. There's no missing sound. There's just an absence, a pause with a timestamp attached to it. And yet it can produce the exact same tightening in your chest as an awkward pause across a dinner table. Your brain doesn't care whether the silence is spoken or digital. It just registers the gap and asks the same ancient question. Have I been quietly dropped? Now here's the twist that reframes the whole thing. The silence you're so desperate to fill was never actually dangerous. Nobody in that room is calculating your exile. Most of the time, the other person is just thinking or tired or simply comfortable enough to not need to fill every gap themselves. But your brain doesn't wait around for that nuance. It reacts first and sorts out the details later, the same way it always has, for the exact same reason it always has, since long before conversations, meetings, or first dates existed at all. So the next time a conversation goes quiet and your chest tightens and your mind starts racing for something, anything to say, you don't have to obey that urgency. You can notice it instead. You can recognize it for exactly what it actually is. Not proof that something's wrong. Not evidence that you've been silently excluded. Just an old alarm, ringing for a threat that stopped existing a very long time ago, still doing the only job it has ever known how to do. The conversation stops. Nobody says anything. For seconds pass. And this time, you finally understand why those 4 seconds were never really about the silence at all.